No, I ain't giving nothing away free. I'm just gonna say something you want to hear. I think you're gonna want to hear it. Um, how's it doing, people? How's it doing? I can't hear you. Throw me some thumbs up. Give me some kisses. All right, Freckles, don't make me come at you. You better hear. All right, one little stinky thumb up. You better give me some kisses, girl. You better give me some kisses. So, folks, how y'all doing? I've been as what's the name? Um, Run DMC used to say. I've been illin' all week. I just been bugging out and acting a fool all week, all week, all week. Ah, so what? I can't hear you. Give me some love. Give me some love. Give me some thumbs up. Oh, come on now. Give me some kisses. Give me some what? Say what? Say what? Girl, you know what's up. Ooh. Ah. I see we starting to have some of the same problems that we have in America around the world. Go figure. Go figure. It's Thursday. This ain't your first rodeo. You guys knew I was going to be here. You know what's happening. Show me love. 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 The man is in the house. I got a little bit of a show created for you guys. I got a little something that I want to present to you tonight. Um, if you're on my page on Facebook, you heard me say that I went to the VA and I had a pleasant surprise. The young lady, the receptionist, I didn't know her, but she actually recognized me from my call. One of my little things I say, um, I always say, "There's always important love, peace, and hair grease," and I said it to her as I was about to leave, and she started laughing, and she had this look on her face. So I figured I would explain to her where that came from. And when I did, she says, "Oh, I've seen it. I've seen your podcast." And I was like, "Really?" She says, "Yeah, take your mask off." And I move, "Yeah, it's you." And I was so tickled pink. I was tickled pink, purple, and blue too. Um, so what it did is it reminded me that when I get a little down, when I get um, to the point where sometimes I'm tired, just like you, I'm reminded that there are people that's watching this show that I have no idea is watching this show, and they don't always make their presence known. So I said, when you guys show up, because we've been doing this for about, well, some of you guys have been around since the beginning. So I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. Um, 1 2 1 2. We good? We good? YouTube, where you at? Okay, I have to stop. But I do these little sidebars. I have to do my sound checks here, sound checks there. So when you guys come in, if you show me love, if you throw me kisses, if you do these things, then not only do I know you here, but I have a true understanding of how many people are actually in the house. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, anybody been on a cruise lately? Yeah, I wasn't on that cruise with them people fighting, huh? It said about 60 to 70 people got into a fight and the cruise broke out. They had to call the Coast Guard because Pookie and Shaniqua and them had a threesome, and I don't know who got mad, but a fight broke out. And then this shit was like, I didn't mean to curse. Then this nonsense was like an old Western. People start fighting that had nothing to do with the original people that were fighting. So next thing you know, this thing is going on. They say, like 5 floors? Are you kidding me? So imagine if I was on that cruise. I'd have been throwing some asses overboard. I mean, get out my way. I'm going back to my room. You know what I mean? Just wild. Just wild, just wild, just wild. So some people can't take them nowhere. Can't take them nowhere, can't take them nowhere. Look, folks, it's about six past a half hour. I was a couple minutes late. I meant to be here at 7:25, and I got here at like I think 7:27 or something to that effect. But you know I'm gonna be here. If you're here, if I invite you to my house, you know I'm gonna be here. I might even cook y'all something. Well, I cook you up a show. That's what I did for you. So without any further ado, I want to say good evening to everybody. How you doing? How you doing? How you mama now? How you mama now? Good evening. Welcome to the show. I want to say thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. Of all the things that you could be doing, and I always say this and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, of all the things you could be doing, you choose to be here getting my analysis of what's going on. And for that, I'm truly humbled. My name is Hank Batiste. My show is called Omit the Logic. This shit makes no sense. I'm your host tonight, and the voices in my head are screaming, is this thing on? Is this thing on? America just celebrated its 276th birthday. In other words, the country was formed, a Declaration of Independence was signed January 4th, 1776. That was 276 years ago. And for the last year, it seemed like there's been more turmoil than it was in the infancy or the beginning of this country. Some black folks don't want to recognize what's going on. Some black folks don't want to recognize the 4th of July. This 276th birthday was a fiasco in more ways than one. Some black folks, since we got Juneteenth, they say, oh, we'll celebrate Juneteenth. We're not celebrating the 4th. I said, well, there were a lot of people. One of the most noted was Crispus Attucks, or Tux, however you want to say it, tomato. History says he was the first man to die in the fight for freedom in the American Revolution. He was a black man in Boston. Obviously, he had just parked the car at Harvard Yard. No, there was no Harvard yet. And I make jokes about it because there is not a holiday in this country that we should not celebrate, especially if it has something to do. If the only way we're going to celebrate it is because we're free, because no. Juneteenth didn't make us free. The reason for Juneteenth is because even after being freed, after the Emancipation Proclamation, so many of us didn't know we were free. And what I say to you now, I did a little quick video in my car on the 4th, and I say, Happy 4th or whatever. And some people got it and some people didn't. And in the end of that video, I gave you a precursor to tonight's show. I said, wake me when we are free. Juneteenth didn't do it. The Emancipation Proclamation made it legal for us to be free. But we have just as many people who chose to stay on the plantation because for them, that was an easy life. That was the life that they knew. So they were so petrified. They were so paralyzed in their quest of freedom that they decided to remain slaves. What I say to you, I think the same thing exists today. So when I'm gonna celebrate in my own way. I'm not gonna celebrate in the traditional way. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. 276th birthday of this country's freedom. And it was a total fiasco. Did I mention that there was another mass shooting on the 4th of July? Yep. We might talk about it, but not the way you think we're going to talk about it. But I'm going to say this again because I've been giving you guys a little bit of a countdown. 124 days till midterm elections. And the reason I keep saying this is because 2 weeks ago, everybody was pissed off. They were angry. They were ready to run to the polls. They wanted to vote. They wanted to impeach Clarence Thomas and those other 5 knuckleheads. That voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. And here 2 weeks later, the dust has settled. You're not so pissed off anymore. 124 days. How do we keep you engaged? How do we keep you pissed off? How do we ensure that you make the right choice? Last week, I explained to you what the difference was between a republic and a true democracy. Even in this republic, with all the Trumpublicans and Republicans and Republicans, how they have stacked the deck and marked the cards so that they could win. So now more than ever, we have so many things to be pissed off about to make us go to the polls, even within the Democratic Party itself. And let me just go on record. I'm registered as a Democrat. But you know me. I'm about accountability and oversight. So I don't care what your party affiliation is. I'm registered as a Democrat because that's the only, the lesser of the two evils. But by no stretch of the imagination am I fooling myself and telling myself, excuse me, by no stretch of the imagination am I fooling myself or telling myself that the Democrats work for me. When I tell you that I am active in making them work for me. Because that other party, the party that was once of Lincoln, is now the party of Trump and other hate mongers and other domestic terrorists and so forth and so on. And even though we have some folks, I done got so far ahead of myself, I just kind of blew my whole little pattern. But this is where I am tonight. So let me back up. Tonight we're going to talk about that, if you haven't already figured it out. We're going to talk about elections. We're going to talk about this upcoming midterm election. We're going to talk about we as people of color. We're going to talk specifically, not just about Black folk. I always talk about the haves and the have-nots because the one thing that 90% of us have in common is we don't qualify for those tax breaks. That's reserved for the richest 1 to 10% of America. So if you don't fall in that category, we may have a little bit more, but we are still a have-not. Don't fool yourself into thinking otherwise. It is what it is. So tonight, we're going to talk about America's memory. We're going to talk about elections. We're going to talk about what happens when other people start to become targets of domestic terrorists and mass murder, senseless mass murder. Tonight's show is called Wake Me When We're Free. My name is Hank Batiste. This is OMITDALOGIC. This shit makes no sense. Well, we're going to try to make sense of it. Let's do this. Wake me when we're free. See, we're too quick to either forgive or God is in control. My spirituality must not be like your religion because my God gave me the power of choice. My God gave me the power to fight evil and not just lay down and be a doormat. We have the power of choice. Roe v. Wade. Let's be pissed off about that. Voting Rights Act. Let's be pissed off about that. Little jailing. If you get shot that many times, your body look like Swiss cheese. How do you know that some bullets hit you and just went through the same hole that the other bullets went through? At what point does the car start counting and say, bump it? I'm just calling this number. That's close enough. George Floyd had a knee on his neck. This kid was trying to evade. And given today's, for lack of a better word, climate of hate and police abuse of power, what person in their right mind would not run? So black kids are dying at traffic stops. White kids are being arrested at traffic stops without incident. Why are cops Black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian. Why are cops so afraid of black motorists and so unafraid of white murderers? I'll wait. On deaf ears. On deaf ears. Nobody's talking crickets because nobody has an answer. America, outcries are falling on deaf ears. I keep telling you guys, I'm not the only one. Because of 23andMe and Ancestry.com, we're starting to find out just how colorful our backgrounds are. I've got all of these things in my background. And I told you, I'm like gumbo. But I focus on the two things, my red and my black, my American Indian and my black folks that were migrated here. And some of them were here before. But that's the two I focus on because their cries since the inception of this country have fallen on deaf ears. The American Indians populated this entire country. They had their fights, they had their beefs amongst themselves and other tribes. And that's to be, if Cain and Abel were brothers and they had issue, then it stands to reason that people were going to have some issues from time to time. But then something else came into the mix. There were Europeans. And they came and they decided that they would take what they wanted. So first they took from the Indians. Now, they've been Indians, they've been American Indians, they've been Native Americans, and what are the indigenous people? Indigenous people? Indigenous people? How about they were Americans? The original Americans, the real Americans. So after you took from them, then you took other people and you made them beasts of burdens. You forced them to build this country on free labor. The Indians had this, when these presidents decided that they wanted to expand this country, they wanted to take the best parts of the country that was already developed, and they forced these Indians off. They gave them blankets laced with smallpox, just like they gave black men syphilis. They eradicated groups of people, so much so that in history it was called the Trail of Tears, where these folks were pushed off of their land. On deaf ears. And then when our others were brought here in bondage, they were beaten in the Middle Passage, they were thrown off the side of the ship, they were raped, they were scalded, they were boiled in oil, they were tarred and feathered, they were lynched, they were shot, they were hung, their cries fell on deaf ears. So when I say wake me when we're free, when the last time you went to the grocery store, I bet you looked over your shoulder. I bet you every time you see a little white kid between the ages of 16 and probably 30, you're looking at them different now. When you see somebody start to say F Biden and Trump 24, you look at them different as well. Is that what freedom feels like? I don't think so. Now, in Denmark, we're starting to see the same thing that happened here. A kid shot up and killed some people. I thought it was the same story. This is going to continue to happen until two things. The 4th of July was different because it doesn't seem like we were the central or the major targets. When other groups are being targeted, then America starts to respond. This kid's dad supposedly ran for mayor. So I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say three things. A, the parents have to be held responsible because this kid learns this hate and this radicalized terrorist notions somewhere. And if our parents are our first teachers, it stands to reason that we learn hate at home. So his dad once ran for mayor. His dad said he didn't see him as being a problem. But then others said that he threatened people at home as well. Then he wanted to be a rapper? Are you kidding me? We know what culture that comes from. Parents have to be held accountable. That's number one. Number two, we have to do away with this mental illness defense. Shit, I've got PTSD so bad now, and so have you. I've got PTSD from things that happened in the military. And then I have this PTSD that I talk about because I'm an independent Black thinker. I refuse to subscribe to a life of secondness. I refuse to reduce my spirituality to a religion that says I should be a sacrificial lamb for anyone who wants to take rather than work for to have their own. So we have to do with that away with that mental illness defense. That's number two. Number one, families and parents have to be held accountable. Number two, no mental health. If you plan something, if you go out and you wait all of this time from the time you're 16, 17 to you're 18, and then you save up the money. My name ain't Perry Mason, but that sounds premeditated to me. So we have to do away with that mental illness. And number three, and most importantly, and now that it's starting to happen to other people, it's going to be easier to make happen. Number three is hate crimes have to be noted as a capital offense and carry a death sentence. I'm not talking life without parole. I'm saying you took 12 lives, you took 6 lives, you took 3 lives, you took 20 lives. God forgive me, but you only have one life to give us back. Number one, parents have to be held accountable. Number two, no mental health defense. Number three, it's a capital offense punishable by death. And I promise you, I could throw number four. Every time a cop brings in a murderer alive and kills a black motorist, they should be kicked off the police force. You need to find something else to do. If you're that afraid of someone driving a car and that unafraid of someone with a gun in hand who has shown their propensity to kill, then you're in the wrong profession. Maybe you should be saying, "Hi, welcome to Wendy's. What would you like on your burger?" It's the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to get out of here. Roe v. Wade, Black Lives Matter, voting rights, John Lewis. Every time a black kid gets killed by a cop, and so forth and so on, we up in arms. And then as long as it's a news cycle, we rant and we rave and we rattle our sabers, we shake our fists, we scream things like no justice, no peace. And then when it's no longer popular, we forget about it. We get on with our lives. See, America as a whole, and black people specifically, have short term memories. Brown people act just like us. Because the third one I didn't talk about, see, we talked about the American Indians and we talked about those black slaves that were brought here. But we didn't talk about the Mexicans who were indigenous to this country as well. Before we took Texas and California from Mexico, we didn't talk about that. But the one thing that the Mexicans have in common with black folks is they too have very short memories. So people of color as a whole, we're quick to forgive. All we think, like Clarence Thomas, as long as I act like them, as long as I put them first, being second ain't so bad, because at least I ain't like you. So let me tell you something about the short-term memory. Here's where we get back to the number 124 days. How do I keep you pissed off so? How does the media keep you pissed off so? How do I keep you so engaged that in 124 days, you go to the polls with one thing in mind, not letting the Republicans have control of Congress again? Because that's what we have to work on. And that secondary, that close second is we need new leadership. Because all that's been going on, you can tell who wants to run for president. There's one by the name of Elizabeth Warren. And honestly, I wouldn't let her be dog catcher. But every time there's an opportunity, she grabs the mic and she rah, 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 rah. Meanwhile, Pelosi sitting high on a hog. Imagine having a leader that says, you know what? I failed you. I'm taking ownership of this. I'm going to prove to you that I'm worthy of your vote, of your confidence. So those are the two things we have to do. Number one is we cannot let the Republicans, the Trump Republicans, because if the Republicans get contact or control of Congress, we have seen how Mitch, last week I talked about Mitch. He would gladly let Trump back in office. How do I know that? Because if you're black and you've had an argument with your girlfriend that resulted in the cops being called, it's called domestic violence. And suddenly you can't get a student loan, you can't get an apartment, but somehow we see rapists, we see child pedophiles, and we see specifically someone who's of Mitch. I don't want to say protege, but he's willing to do Mitch's bidding. And he has a history. And I'm not even talking about Herschel Walker. Herschel's white wife said that he grabbed her and put a gun to his head, to her head. And they said, that's okay. Herschel is proving that he's a good house Negro. So run, Herschel, run. Just like you did when you was at Georgia, when number 24, run. Run, N-word, run. Dude is so ignorant, he said there's 52 states. So 124 days. Let's stay pissed off. Let's stay engaged. Let's have one plan. All we have to do, there's only one thing that we have to do. We have to show up. We have to overcome whatever adversity lies ahead of us to keep those Republicans and Trump Republicans from taking over the Senate and the House. If you're serious about Roe v. Wade, if you're serious about this nonsense that's going on in the Supreme Court, the easiest way to fight back now, let's keep them DIMocrats, or crabs, or craps. Though, like I said, I admit they're the lesser of two evils. But we know what's going to happen with the other folks. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. 124 days. Let's show up. Let's show out. Let's keep them out of office. Let's keep them from getting control of the Senate. We've had to deal with, for the last 2 years, a Republican and Democrat clothing by the name of Joe Manchin, and another double agent by the name of Kristen Sinema, and so forth and so on. We've had to deal with a Speaker of the House who's been more focused on making money than she is about making policy that works for America, for us to have now. 124 days. Let's stay pissed off. Let's stay engaged. Let's make some demands with our vote. And then let's hold their feet to the fire. The next thing, after we get control of the House and the Senate, is we have to ask for new leadership. Because Nancy and Chuck ain't doing it. As always, I see you right here next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. I'm going to ask you to go to my YouTube. I'm going to ask you to sign up. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to ring the bell so that you know when I'm coming online. And even if I don't put out my feelers until 7:30, I'm going to be here, folks. Right here. From hell or high water. So as always important, wish you love. I wish you peace. And like your man, fresh haircut and hair grease. Let's get it done. Thanks for tuning in. I love you folks more than you could ever know. It ain't a damn thing you could do about it. See you next week. I'm out of here. Mama say, mama sama, mama usa. I'm going to say one more time, I'm not going to stop. That's what Michael was really saying. Thank you guys. I'm out of here.